What up, what up, what up? This is Zion I, and this is my 24/7 HH King Bars. The song is How Many Times off the record Mind Over Matter. Next year is the 20th anniversary, so I feel like it's only right to drop this. Hold up. How many times have you watched the sunrise? How many times you looked into your lover's eyes? How many times have we spit fat rhymes? How many times? How many times? Yo, how many rhymes would it take just for you to relate and understand that we living in a police state? How many? A pretty penny, I would guess. Nonetheless, media got us all desensitized under stress. How many tales of a war shore to shore? Before the last days are here, that's for sure. How many days before we get more mature and brothers with babies start taking care of their ladies? How many mics get crushed, blown to dust before we discover the true power within us? Yo, how many times can I rhyme about the same thing before we realize, stand up, we got to change things? How many times have you seen the sunset? How many times has your ass been in debt? How many times have you bumped our cassette? How many times? How many times? I mean, to be completely transparent, man, I think I was listening to a KRS-One album. I forget what song it was, but there was something he was doing where he was repeating a phrase. And I was like, oh, that's dope. I want to experiment with that. And so it was maybe like a month, 2 months after I had vibed off the song that I heard the beat, and I was like, I just wanted to try this idea. And the way I write, man, I just look at the world around me and kind of like try to fill in the gaps of how I see it or what I see is not being addressed. So a lot of the things I'm talking about are just issues that like kind of flitter through my mind as I look at the world. Like when I'm talking about cattle, I was a vegan at the time. So I was thinking about like, you know, how they kill the meat. You know, Native Americans back in the day would like use the whole body, the bone, everything. Whereas today it's manufacturing. So like they just kill it hella quick. So all the fear hormones get sent to the meat and then we eat the meat. And it's like that fear is getting passed on to us, like raising up the children and like, you know, people having sex, you know, but not really being in love, like, cause that's what happened to me. So it was a lot of just self-reflection, but asking other people like, what about y'all? Have you felt these things? Like how many times you enjoyed the moments in life, like watching the sunrise or the full moon, or like those quiet moments where you're like, I'm alive, and it's just that, instead of being so caught up on the rat race, you know what I'm saying? During the time I wrote this, man, I was on some shit. Like I call it my Buddha phase. Like I was just meditating all the time. I was vegan. I wasn't really having sex like that. I was very particular about my energy. You know what I'm saying? And it's interesting, man, because at this point in my life, I'm going back to the same vibe. And that's probably why I feel the song so much, is because I'm needing the things I was doing back then now more than I needed them when I learned them. And so I would just tell myself, man, you know, and I would tell youngsters, like, really tap in and believe in you. You got to believe in yourself. You got to look in the mirror and say, I love you, and know it and believe it and like mean it. You know what I'm saying? It's not, because a lot of us these days, you know, we're looking at phones and seeing reflections of other people's lives or experiences, and we're constantly comparing ourselves to others. And when I wrote this song, that really didn't exist. I mean, maybe in the media, but in terms of like, you know, seeing each moment, microcosm of everybody's lives all lined up on a timeline, that shit didn't exist. And so in this time, I would say, man, you really got to take time for you, cultivate your own spiritual awareness of you, whatever your belief is. To me, it doesn't even matter. Even if you're atheist, I think you could still be spiritual. You know what I'm saying? Just to tap in to you and your energy and understand the reason why God put you here. I think that's what this journey of life is all about. And that's what this music is about for me. How many times will the seasons turn for Babylon? Burn, it's my own concern to carry on. Traditional, listen, yo. How many blood and tears was shed by my people for over 400 years? How many times have you lied, cheated, acted conceited, didn't need it, you wanted? How many times blunted? How many scars and cuts, bruises from the battle for those who got beef? How many ever seen cattle killed in cold blood? You eat it up. How much more till somebody say that's enough? How many times have you watched the full moon? How many times you cried alone in your room? How many times have you felt the bass boom? How many times? How many times? One more. How many live in the projects? How many had sex before they fell in love? How many people forget where they came from? Seen some people get lost. How many brothers get accused and hung on the cross? How many sisters get neglected? How many get raised in the land of the empty, the home of the slave? How many times can I rhyme about the same thing before we realize, stand up. We got to change things. How many times has the sky dropped rain? How many times has your heart felt pain? How many times I've asked again and again? How many times? How many times? Say it! How many times? 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 I think I hope to be creating classic music. You know what I'm saying? My intention has always been, in the music I like, I feel like it's classic. Like, I grew up on like Nas, Rakim, Tribe Called Quest, Bob Marley. I like Nirvana. Like, the music I like is generally, I feel like it's classic. I like stuff that I can listen to 10 years down the road and it still bump. And even if the production sounds dated, the lyrics don't. I always was intentional and wanted to create music that stood like that. Because I think I'm talking about in this song, the human condition, less than like a trend or like something that's gonna go away. It's talking about being human on this planet and how that is for me in this moment. You know what I'm saying? So it's 20 years later, and right now I can still spit it and feel it. You know what I'm saying? I probably feel it now more than I felt when I wrote it, almost. Because I'm looking back like, damn, you know what I'm saying? I was seeing things that like about the human condition that I think I might have forgot about in my journey to this point. These guys raised me, man, like Tribe Called Quest and, you know, Public Enemy. Like, I learned about Farrakhan through their music. I didn't know who Farrakhan was. And then I heard them rapping about it. And I was like, who's that? What does that mean? What's Farrakhan? And Public Enemy was so important to me that I went and found out who he was. And then I ended up at the Million Man March in 1995. You know what I'm saying? In understanding like that all these different things, like, it's a seed that's tossed to the ground, and then some of them bear fruit. Some of them start to grow. And that's what I think we're doing as MCs and as artists and as like communicators, is we're trying to like sow these positive energy seeds to people, man, because especially our community, man, like we need it the most. And for me, that's what hip hop was back in the day, in the golden age. It was a voice for us. Now it's very much commercialized. It's very, in a lot of ways, it's weaponized against the youth, in my opinion. And so back then, it was a more pure expression of art and culture. So that's why I learned it. You know what I'm saying? I feel like I took the fruit right off the tree. Like, I didn't buy it in the store. I grabbed it off the tree and ate it, and it tasted good. And I was like, that's food. So that's how I looked at hip hop culture. And that's why I began writing that way, because it tapped me. And I wanted to use my energy to tap others because it was such a profound experience. I feel like Nipsey was accountable. You know what I'm saying? He came from a background or whatever, but he was like, yo, I'm finna use my energy to do something to uplift the people. And he put his walk, he was about it. You know what I'm saying? He did what he said he was gonna do. And you see what happened to him. You know what I'm saying? I feel like we need more energy like that in our community. People who are willing to stand up and die behind their principles around lifting up the community. Because so many of us are eager to get that bread. You know what I'm saying? Like, we'll do whatever it takes to get the money. And then once you got the money, they got control of you because you don't want to lose the money, especially if you came up never having nothing. You know what I'm saying? So I feel like people need to be more focused and accountable, especially our community, man. Like, I'm African in America, you know what I mean? And we're suffering still. And I feel like when Obama was in office, we got comfortable and everything got a little goofy. And now he's out and we got this megalomaniac. I don't know, it's like a wake-up call for us, because it's been hundreds of years of the same thing over and over. And in a lot of ways, I feel like our ancestors, man, like, they still here present with us. And like, we owe an obligation to them, because they made it possible so we even exist and we're here. You know what I'm saying? So we got to pass it down for the youngsters and teach them how to stand up and be accountable and be real. This life it's a universe, man, and everything's in balance. And when you go out of balance, you get checked and it comes back to you. So just because you make a lot of money, you know what I'm saying, it doesn't mean like you're safe from the get back. Like, I feel like the universe is always in order, and it's always gonna, you know, repay that energy you put out. I started to realize, like, nah, but this is an energy, like, it's a presence. It's there regardless. And now as I got older, you know, I came into understanding, like, they're watching and they're with us. Like, they're in this room right now. You know what I'm saying? And I think it's a very Western ideal to deny the presence of ancestors, because, you know, in Asia, they do it. In Africa, we do it. In Latin America, we do it. You know what I'm saying? Even throughout Europe, a lot of places, they do it too. I don't know. I feel like it's a control frequency. It's just how I like to categorize things that, like, diminish the true power of who we are as human beings. And I think to separate us from our ancestors is a way to keep us weak, because the ancestors are always trying to guide and uplift. And if you deny them, then they're like, all right, we're trying to reach you, but you're not listening. But if you open the door and like, hey, I'm listening, what's up? And you're like, all right, here. You know what I'm saying? It's like, they're there, man. It's not a straight line. It's not a line with a beginning and an ending, like a straight line, how they tell you life is from here to there. I look at it's a circle. So yeah, you might have passed on to the next world, but you know what I mean? Like, you're still in this space of reality. I posted something on my Instagram the other day. It was saying, like, you know, our vision, we can only see a certain amount of the frequency of light. We can only hear a certain amount of the frequency of sound. What about exist outside of that frequency that we can't experience? It's still there. We just don't see it. Cats and dogs see it. So when you with your cat and your dog and they like looking around, they seeing things, you just can't see it. You know what I'm saying? So that's what I'm talking about, that spiritual energy, that spiritual realm. It's still present. And I feel like those of us who are in tune with it, we need to, like, you know, kind of keep passing it down or passing it along, because in this era we live in with all this technology, I feel like they're really trying to silence that world in a lot of ways. You know what I'm saying? Zion I Crew, Mind Over Matter Records, Lyrics Matter Tour starting next January, February, probably out into March. I'm also in this show called the North Pole Show. It's on YouTube. It's about North Oakland, California. I'm in the second season. I play a character known as Pyro Bill. I'm an anarchist pyromaniac. The show is a comedy about immigration issues with ICE raids and all this nonsense going on. It's about gentrification. It's about climate change. It's very well done. I highly recommend you go check it out. It's on YouTube, the North Pole Show. I'm dropping a new single called Track Life. I live in Oakland, East Oakland, California, and it's about the track in Oakland where, you know, there's young girls out there selling their bodies and pimps going on, and I'm talking about that from a very humane perspective. I'm not glorifying the shit. It's very tragic and sad to me, but I live right there. And I was driving home one day with my kids in the back of my car, and this girl walked across the street and looked in my car, and it was like a snapshot, and I had to write a song about it. I'm looking forward to 2020. Mind Over Matter Records, Zion I Crew. Bless up.